Yes, we are live now. So, very good evening. It's so wonderful to come back once again on Poorna Wellbeing Samvaada with again the same two lovely people, Gauri teacher and Money teacher. Money teacher will be joining us in some time, and we have Gauri here with us right now. Welcome, Gauri.
Namaste. Good evening, Deepa.
Good
Very happy
evening.
to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So it's been a while that we've come live, but this time it's a wonderful topic, and this topic is actually very close to my heart. And the topic is called challenging behavior in children. Why is this close to my heart? Because when COVID struck us last year, I'm just adding money teacher. Just a minute. When COVID struck us, and all of us were at home, parents at home and children at home. Uh, I know a lot of my clients were dealing with a lot. I myself didn't know how to adjust to everybody breathing on me, and it was difficult for me. So at that time, I realized that there must be a way to manage this. And not just me, I heard from so many people facing the same issue. So, so here we are bringing this topic. Welcome, Money, to the stream. Money, you're on mute. Yeah,
Hi, good afternoon.
good afternoon.
Are
So
you able
I
to
was
hear me?
just, yes, yes, very
Yes,
much,
sir,
very
you're
much.
audible.
Okay.
So I was just introducing the topic. So it is so, I mean, today it's going to be an exploration on what is challenging behavior, what are the reasons this happens, what are the roots of it, what are the ways we can, what are the tools to handle that, and what is our responsibility as a parent to take care of it. So as we deep dive into this topic, and I welcome both of you to this discussion. We go straight into the topic. And Mani, are you ready to start with introducing to us what is challenging behavior? Where exactly does it come from? And what are the causes?
Okay. Uh, Two or three questions. Let's first try to understand what is challenging behavior. I often walk into various classrooms to help teachers, uh, I mentor teachers, yeah. So I do classroom observations. So there was once, let's say, a classroom I walked in, and the teacher was literally struggling to deal with the children. Yeah, there was a circle going on, but none of the children were in a circle, and some of the children were even lying down, and some of them were talking to each other. Some of them were like defying the teacher's authority with an air of, indignance, and some were showing all bad gestures and faces, and so I immediately knew that this teacher is struggling with the challenging behavior of children. It's obvious, there is a certain, there's a certain kind of so-called decent behavior or appropriate behavior, yeah, more of appropriate behavior that we expect that, in society that all of these people, whether it's adults or in school for children, will follow a certain set of best practices. I don't want to call it as rules, but something that it's part of children's growing up. It becomes part of their habit bodies. Yeah.
Yes.
So when things fall out of the normal range of what is between humor and between a little bit aggression, when it falls out of these two parameters, then one can call behavior as challenging. Yeah.
Interesting.
So, yeah, in that particular class, the children were testing the boundaries of the teachers. The teacher
Teacher.
was a little bit lost. She was yelling and screaming, and she was even physically, kind of dragging the children to the circle. And nothing seemed to work. I was watching it for some time. And slowly, when I went to the staff room, all the teachers were speaking about this particular class. You see? So the class kind of got noticed, it got branded as a bad class or a difficult class. So I think this is like a classic example of what we can call challenging behavior.
Yeah. Yeah. And what age group are you talking about in this example?
The example that I was talking about is about 7 or 8 years.
8 years. Okay. Okay.
7 or 8 years, yeah. So,
Okay.
but it could be
Yeah. Yeah.
any other age group too.
Yeah.
Now, at what age does it happen? Challenging behavior can happen at any age,
Mm.
and basically, some behaviors can be handled by parents or teachers with a lot of humor and with a lot of harmony. One can bring harmony immediately back into the situation through the right way of dealing it. But there are behaviors that are more long term, that are instilled inside the etheric body or a damaged astral body. So then it takes a longer time for healing. So basically, it can be for any age group. But how it manifests, that's your last question.
Yes. Yes.
How the behavior manifests itself.
Yeah.
I would like to look at the answer in a threefold way. Yeah, at the bodily level, challenging behavior can result when there are fevers in the physical and etheric body, when there are accidents, when there are fevers, when there is pain and trauma in the physical body, then there can be some kind of irritable behavior. Challenging behavior can come. At the soul level, there can also be challenging behavior, and there are fundamentally three soul qualities. Yeah, we are all aware of that, and that is will, the human feeling, and the human thinking. Yeah, so when it comes to willing, the behavior can manifest itself as lack of initiative. Children who just don't want to get up and do any work, plain laziness. Yeah, sometimes especially out of too much of TV and all of that.
Yeah.
There can be a lot of anger and aggression, which one can show in the body. One can kick and one can stamp and scream and shout. So these things are also kind of manifestation of challenging behavior in the human soul level, especially in the will. There can be violence that can be inflicted on others and on self. Yeah, self-violence also can happen. Then, of course, lack of food and sleep rhythms can also cause a lot of behavioral disturbances. So all these are in the will, the human will. Now, if you go to the feeling level, children can show disinterest, boredom. Some children can even kind of make themselves like a victim, and create a lot of self-pity, extreme melancholy, and they keep on looking for attention. Or on the other hand, there can be children who are highly competitive. They have a very highly competitive attitude at the cost of upmanship. It's not just a healthy competition, but a competitive upmanship, and one could go to any extent to kind of win the situation. Vengeance, and basically a kind of an adventure to break rules, and to escape from authority. So this is at the level of feeling, and then there is also the level of thinking. Yeah, at the level of thinking, behaviors can manifest from fear, anxiety, verbal arguments, cunningness, cheating, shortcuts. So all these things, so in the will, in the feeling, and in the thinking, in all these three areas, challenging behavior can result in the human soul. And finally, the third one is the human spirit. If the spirit or the human self is not able to permeate beautifully or harmoniously into all the organs, into all the physical organs, if the spirit does not find a home in the body, then it can result in challenging behavior. And some of the spiritual um examples of challenging behavior can be seen in conditions of autism and ADHD on the one side, and Down syndrome and other intellectual challenges on the other side. Yeah, and I can give you more examples. Epilepsy and hysteria can bring about its own kind of hysteric behaviors, irritable behaviors. So all of these have to be dealt with. Yeah, I hope we can get an opportunity to answer how we can deal with all these
Yes,
behaviors.
yes, yes.
Yeah, but
Absolutely,
this is
absolutely.
yeah, but
Yeah.
this is in a long, not in brief, but quite a long answer for
Yeah, yeah,
what is challenging behavior and how it manifests. Yeah.
yeah. No, I think you beautifully introduced the structure, for this topic. It's very, very beautiful and holistic to me. Gaudi, would you like to add to it?
Yeah. Yes, Deepa. So, I would like to put it in more simpler terms. Like I would compare in the sense, understand challenging behavior to a recipe. Okay, any recipe we prepare in the kitchen.
Mm,
For example, sambar. Now, what are the ingredients that gets into the preparation of sambar? Maybe a kind of dal, few
yeah.
vegetables, salt, spice, and some masala powder. Okay, so these are the ingredients, and there is a process to it while we prepare the sambar. And finally, the sambar is ready in a bowl, and I serve it to Deepa. And Deepa looks at the sambar, she looks at the color, the texture, and then she tastes. And she, while tasting, she says, "Wow, everything is in balance. The salt, the
Mm,
spice, the way the dal has been cooked, the vegetables are adding to the flavor. So you just enjoy." And another day, if I'm going to serve a sambar, for example, the dal was burnt, do you expect the same color sambar as an output? No.
no.
The sambar color will change, the texture will
Yes.
change. Even if the dal is undercooked, even if the vegetables are overcooked and mashy, you may not like it. And
Yeah.
or if it turns out to be too salty and spicy also,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
immediately sense the imbalance. And you
Yes.
say,
Yes.
"No, Gauri, I can't take this. This is too challenging for me.
Yes.
This
Yes.
sambar I can't eat. It's too
Correct.
spicy for me."
Correct. Correct.
So, this is how I would look at the challenging behavior. It is basically a kind of imbalance that is created in the child. Now, how the imbalance in the preparation of sambar gets reflected in the final output. Similarly, the ingredients can be the sensory impressions, the experiences, like Manisa mentioned, the lack of rhythms. All these things comprises as an experience for the child. And when this imbalance is created in the child, then that gets reflected as a challenging behavior.
Mm, 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 mm.
So it is not enough the ingredients, but also the process
Yes.
of what all the child is undergoing in his day-to-day living. All these things comprises to, reflects as a challenging behavior.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, Deepa. And like
And
Sim
I
mentioned,
think
the
when
list
you're
is
saying
quite long.
this,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
feels like if we are aware then of the ingredients and the process, then we can really, it's in our hands. It's
Yes,
as simple
yes,
as
very,
that.
very much, very much. So it is about working backwards. Suppose on a particular day the sambar is a flop show for me, then I have to work backwards and think like, where did I miss? Why this is happening to me? Why have I attracted this kind of a sambar now? Okay, so this is a very simplest way of understanding challenging behavior for me. It can be any recipe, not enough sambar, that is for sure. And the challenging behaviors can be, the list is quite long, like even with normal children, like with special needs, Sir mentioned and gave few examples. Even with normal children, it can be like anxiety, fear, insecurity, no loneliness, even bedwetting. All these things are indications of a kind of imbalance which the child is experiencing. And as adults, it's our role to bring the child into a space of harmony, wholeness, feeling balanced. So, this is
Mm.
what I would like to add.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's beautifully put both of you together. It makes it whole. So which means it can happen to at any age, at any time, and at one point it can be all okay because the ingredients and process is okay, but at another time, because of probably some life circumstances or some reason, it could go awry and an imbalance could be created.
And to remember, one day the sambar can be a flop show, and the next day the sambar is going to be tasty.
Yes,
That goes
exactly.
without
Yes,
saying.
yes. So there is hope.
Very true. Trust, not enough
Super,
hope, trust.
super, super. So I'm sure, along with trust, we need to do something about it. I'm sure there are different methodologies and tools to handle these challenging behaviors. And maybe if we could dwell on that, what are these tools, and how do these tools work in the child, and how does it bring about healing? Money?
Yeah. Um, we can, kind of look at some behaviors which are absolutely no. You see, like let's say, for example, bullying or children destroying property. So, some kind of an order or a desirable behavior is required, and one cannot just let disobedience or disrespectful behavior kind of pass by.
Yes.
So, most educators use two methods, and one is the simplest and the easiest route is to punish the children, to kind of create in them a fear of authority. But that kind of healing is a little bit temporary, and it does not bring about long term change. Yeah, to some extent, the younger the children are, this punishment model works. The older they are, even that can go wrong. The other one is where one really kind of takes a lot of care and brings back harmony into the disturbed human nature. Yeah, something has gone wrong within the child. This kind of understanding of looking at the inner spirit of the child and trying to kind of see how how one can bring back harmony into the disturbed bodies of the child. Yeah, how the spiritual bodies and the earthly bodies are not kind of harmoniously integrated. So
Yes.
then all these kind of behaviors can result. So understanding this aspect of human nature, and then trying to devise new methodologies that address the inner life of a child and elevate the child in his dignity, in his self-esteem, and basically you're addressing the higher self of the child.
Of the child, yeah.
Yeah, so this is the other method. So
Yes.
world of education usually uses the second method, and two of the most important aspects we can look at is one is rhythms, and the other is the loving authority of the teacher. Yeah, these are the two important things, and both these are already a preventive measure towards challenging behavior. Yeah, so if you have good rhythms, if children have poor sleep rhythms, then they get into irritable behavior in the mornings. Yeah, they refuse to get up, they refuse to come to school, or even if they came to school, then and they really are quite awake, but inwardly are craving for that rest. That
Yes.
can cause a
Yes.
lot of
Yes.
irritability, which can't be seen. A child will start to nudge another child. They start to disturb the class. So
Yes.
they'll start to poke somebody, because all this is the way of keeping themselves a little bit awake or humoring themselves
Yes.
on a day that they feel inwardly irritable. So if you understand that, no, I have often noticed that most often in classrooms there's a lot of activity going on under the desk than on the desk.
Yeah.
You see, kicking each other and
Yeah.
stamping each other's shoes. So all these things happen more often. So it's important to understand that when bad behavior sets in, then when it is not checked and is consistently happening day after day, it turns into a habit.
Yes.
Yeah, so bad habits have to be checked at the earliest. It can get complicated. I had one child who was continuously doing this, yeah, not paying attention in the classroom, was, scratching some friend's book or poking him with a pencil or he was doing something like that. Now, initially we were handling it through general methods of how you would tell a child and either educate him, converse with him, or sometimes firmly punish him, stand out of the class, whatever. But slowly we realized on further research that the child was really having very poor sleep rhythms and even food rhythms, and we found out that there was actually no one to care for the child. We found that father and mother were locked in a severe battle with each other, and the children were left to anybody's care at any point of time, to adults who were very stressed out and very insecure. So so finally it all boiled down to not the children's bad behavior, but to the adults
Inevitability.
in a way. So adults form the biggest ecosystem around children, and are primarily the biggest reason for children who show challenging behavior, especially in the soul life. In the soul life of children, what I said before, in the will, in the feeling, and in the thinking. This is caused by the ecosystem of which adults play the major part. The third one I said, the spiritual challenging behavior that results out of the human spirit, that is something that's more cosmic and not part of the ecosystem. That is something that we need to work a little differently.
Yes, absolutely. So you're actually saying that a child does that because he or she is seeking attention, because some needs are not being met.
Right. I mean, seeking attention can also be like the child is seeking attention in a purposeful or a conscious way, but this is very unconsciously. The child really is left out. On the other hand, a positive attitude. Parents who hold the boundaries for children, who ensure that their rhythms are well kept, and children really look up to the adults as authorities, then their challenging behavior is far reduced. You see?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This is again very hopeful, because if parents understand, then the child benefits.
Absolutely, and the healing lies in love and care. Understanding. Let's say, for example, the importance of the senses. Sometimes a lot of sensory overload. There are children who are hyposensitive or hypersensitive to certain impressions. So all of those can cause, challenging behavior. So. In most cases, the Waldorf curriculum itself, by its very nature, the Waldorf curriculum as we practice it, is a very healing and therapeutic curriculum. Storytelling, let's just take the example of storytelling. It has tremendous beneficial effects, on children who are very complacent, who show disinterest and boredom. Storytelling can work as a magical healing to children. Likewise, painting and modeling with hands. These can also create a very healing effect in children's breathing. Like that, form drawing, eurythmy. There are so many subjects within the Waldorf curriculum, and in curative education we specifically look at foot baths, foot massages, especially with some particular oils like lavender, candula, some specific oils. So they all have when children need an ego womb and they don't have it, then these kind of massages and other things help the child to incarnate into the body once again very well.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they also can play quite, healing effects.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
generally for all children, I would say, creating a rich sensory impression in the ecosystem, whether it is through lights or sounds or tastes or or even thoughts, the kind of things that you speak to children, the kind of language they hear, everything, everything that is an assault on their senses can cause challenging behavior, and nurturing those senses in a rightful way can cause the healing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if
Yeah.
yeah, but if the adults refuse to take responsibility for the children's behavior, and if they start to put the onus or the blame on the children and punish them, and start asking the child to deal with his behavior himself, rather than making changes as an adult in the environment or in oneself, it can have long term effects on the child's growth, on the child's development.
Yes.
Long term. I have so many adults who come to me, for some kind of problems in their life, and one really, goes back, looking at their biography, and just having them share their biography and listening to it, and finally they will suddenly come up and become present to a fact that, oh, this is what happened in my childhood, and now I realize where this behavior
Yeah.
is coming
Yeah.
from.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You see, so
Yeah.
these are things that we really do not even think of in today's parenting,
Yes.
about
Yes.
the long term effects of
Yeah. Yeah.
uh,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
likewise the healing. Yeah,
Yes. Yes.
I have worked with a particular girl who had tremendous levels of kind of a depression. Yeah, she was a child with learning difficulties, and because of bullying from peers and teachers and all of that, she had gone into a kind of a depression. 3 years we worked with her. Gauri knows that child. 3 years we worked with her, and she of course fared well. She had good marks from where she was failing. Her answer papers were totally empty. From where she passed the 10th board exams with about 62%, and parents were very very happy, and they came and told me, Manisa, you've made the impossible happen. We never thought that our child could ever complete her 10th exam and all of that. Thank you so much. These results are very, it made us very happy. And I told them, the kind of work we have done on your child is not at all for this result of 62%. The kind of work we have done on your child is something that will show results 20 years later, 10 years later.
Wow. Wow.
See, so that is the result I'm waiting for. Not for this result really matters,
Wow.
doesn't mean much to me.
Beautiful.
So yeah, and this aspect is something that we've all forgotten. In the mad rush of life, and we have forgotten this aspect, that there's something that is building inwardly. The inner life of a child is completely forgotten in parenting and in modern teaching methodologies.
Yes, I completely agree with you. I remember my own case when I was working in corporate, and the class teacher, a class teacher told me a child is acting out. And then when we explored what she actually was saying, that the child is missing one of the parent. And that was one of the reasons I quit work. Because if I can be available, and if I can help the child in his behavior and be available, I think the child will flourish. And he was 8 years old at that time. And today the child is 15 years old, 15 and a half, and I'm so proud of him. So I actually, for me, it is sakshat, like it's real what happened in my life. And it's only because of this Steiner teacher told me that it even made me open my eyes. The problem is not with the child. It is our responsibility. It is so beautifully said, Mani. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have anything to share? Sorry, Mani, did you want to say something?
No, I just want to say that most often children are children, and what goes in comes out. So I completely believe that what children have a right to play truant and play mischief and be naughty, and it is
Right.
it is the adults who must always make the change, and
Yes.
are responsible for, of course, if it comes to the spirit self of the children, and children have medical intervention, medical problems like ADHD or autism, that's a different story. I'm talking about the so-called
Yeah.
regular
Yeah.
children in
Yeah. Yeah.
and parenting.
Mm. Yeah.
That's it.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Gauri,
Yeah, Deepa.
would you like to
So,
add?
yeah, I would like to add few more things to what Manisa said, like different tools, different
Yes.
methodologies are
Yes.
suggested. I
Methodologies.
would like to even add the activity of cooking, gardening. All these things also will work tremendously in bringing healing to children, because these things
Yeah.
are something which is looked down upon today.
Yes.
Parents, many parents and teachers may understand that it is very important to educate the child only the thinking, the intellect. But it is
Yes. Yes.
important to involve the child in all these things. And when it comes to 0 to 7 years, between 0 to 7, I would give the top priority to play, something called
Yes.
play, which most of the children are deprived of today when they are in a conventional system,
Yes.
especially.
Yes.
So play is something which has tremendous healing, unbelievable healing, which I have seen
Mm.
over years. And I would like to quote what Steiner says about play. Play is the most purest and the spiritual product of a child, he says. It is the most
Mm.
purest and spiritual product. And the beauty of play, why I wanted to highlight play, is it absorbs the player into itself. When a child is sitting
Yes.
and playing, it absorbs the player into itself and thereby frees the child from the burden of self-awareness. The child won't be aware that he is sitting in an environment and playing. So that should be the process. The child will get
Wow.
engrossed deeply inside the play, and he won't even realize that something is happening around, and he can play
Mm.
for hours. So if
Yes.
that kind of play can be facilitated for a child, nothing like
Mm.
that between
Mm.
0 to 7.
Wow.
And beautiful things will come out, and it is a fantastic platform for the child to express himself through play.
Mm.
And when
Yes.
we speak about these tools and methodologies, Deepa, I would like to really reiterate it is not about understanding these tools as tools. Suppose
Yeah.
if parents and teachers who are listening to us need not misunderstand that, okay, let me start involving my child in gardening, let me start involving my child in clay modeling. It is not enough picking up those tools. What is important is the process, how it is conducted. That makes all the difference. For example, if it is clay modeling, is the child experiencing a minimum of 10 to 15 minutes of time span without any adult interference, without any TV running by the side, without any loud conversations between adults? If the child is led to experience the being, his own being with the Mother Earth, for example, during a clay modeling, that is when healing will happen. It is not like I'll be talking to somebody, TV will be running, I'll be in my laptop and start telling, hey, come on, your clay is ready, start molding, start molding. That is not a healing experience. So the more the parents or the teachers, the adults, as adults, we have to understand, like, we have to leave the child in an uninterrupted space.
Mm.
Then the child gets an opportunity to get deeper and deeper. Always healing lies in the deeper layer.
Mm.
So let us not understand it intellectually, like even gardening. You take any tool for that matter, anything, the child has to have a deeper experience. So to achieve the deeper experience, we have to be facilitators. That is what I would request through this show. So let us
Mm.
understand the value of these tools and not outwardly trying them. Not like a timetable. Okay, 15 minutes of gardening, and the mother continuously keeps guiding, or the father continuously keeps guiding. No, no, don't make this, don't do this. It will get the place dirty. You're not supposed to do this. This continuous talking from the adults doesn't give an opportunity for the child to experience something deeper.
Mm.
So wherever needed, we are going to speak. Wherever we have to hold back, we have to hold back. This is one
Yeah.
aspect I wanted to add. And another thing is how these tools actually works within the child. Within the consciousness of the child is something very interesting to understand. Because when we are talking about challenging behaviors, behaviors lies deeply within us as habits, doesn't it?
Yes,
And
absolutely.
these habits are reiterated in the cell memory
Yeah.
of us.
Yes.
And if we have to transform that, if we have to bring a change in these habits, we have to allow the experiences, the imaginative pictures. If it is a story, the imaginative pictures. Everything is like a story. Even a gardening experience can bring a lot of imagination into the child.
Mm,
So the imaginative pictures, the insights, the experiences, the child gathers through her senses, and
mm.
those experiences should be allowed to reach the soul of the
Enter.
child.
Yes, yes.
And from the soul, it has to reach the depth of the will. Will is the doing. And there, in the depth of the will, these imaginative pictures and experiences resides secretly, unseen, doing their work mysteriously
Mm, mm.
to bring transformative effects. That is how we can wean out a child from challenging behavior. How
Yeah.
this process happens is this is how it happens.
Mm,
Because I have
mm.
tried those stories, many tools I have used in my journey as a teacher, as a parent. And this is the process that is underlying this whole experience.
Mm, mm,
So we have to understand that it is a whole process by itself.
mm.
Because when we
So
deal with children,
the opposite has to be allowed to simmer into the soul,
yes,
penetrate the soul of the child, and it has to be deep enough for the child to experience the depth at
yes,
his
and
level.
from the soul, it has to reach the will. Will in the sense doing. When I say doing, it is consistently practicing something. It
Yes.
doesn't work overnight. You can't expect solutions overnight. So consistently, we have to work in our doing, and that is when you can expect beautiful results. Things can be
Mm,
resolved. Because when we use stories, healing stories as a tool, I remember Ben Ockery's a very fantastic and simple saying that we often forget how mighty and mysterious stories are. They do their work in silence with our inner elements of mind and self. They become part of you while changing you. That is the most powerful statement. They become part of you while changing you. You don't even realize that you're getting transformed. That is how transformation happens for all of us. We won't realize that I'm getting transformed, but later, if you look
yeah.
back, you will realize
Yeah.
that, yeah, I was like this, now I have changed. How that
Yes.
happened, we don't know,
Exactly.
isn't it? So,
Exactly.
that is how these
Absolutely.
tools should be used and
Yeah.
they will work.
Yeah. I think it's beautiful. Uh, yeah. I think it's working at depth, and practically through the will,
Yes, yes, very true.
and making it repetitive and repeating it and repeating it and repeating that forms the habit body.
True.
Yeah.
Because we know many
Beautiful.
things here, Deepa, when it comes to doing, we fail, isn't
Yes.
it?
Exactly. Yes.
That is where we
Absolutely.
have to
Yeah.
keep up our
Yeah.
striving.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Right. Right. One of the
Actually,
aspects. Yeah. Sorry.
yeah, Deep,
Yes,
I just
Manu.
wanted to add in Gauri's first point that she was saying, no, this whole thing about the an intellectual kind of parenting. Now
Yeah.
today's modern parenting, has come to do a lot with intellect. Parents get a high when their children speak a lot or say some smart things. Parents actually feel a high, and then they start to promote that. They start to make sure that the child repeats such behavior often, and they showcase it among people, and they start to teach children quite a lot. Very verbose kind of parenting, what Gauri said. No? I think this intellectual parenting causes half the problem in children, especially without any of the disorders and syndromes and all of that. In the regular children, a lot of problems comes because of too much of intellectual parenting. Children have to remain simple. Children have to remain in the space of innocence for a long time. Today, parents have this huge need or a big hurry to finish off with children's childhoods. They want children to become adults faster, and therein lies the problem. You And children today, you can see children actually talking more about branded shoes and latest toys, and more from the point of view of I am owning this and I have it, rather than from the point that they're all sharing themselves. You may
Yes.
have a toy, but if a child is innocently playing with a toy and everybody is playing, that's a different
Yes.
matter than
Yes.
saying, I own this. This is my toy. My father brought it to me. That is where the too much of adult interference in children's behavior happens.
Yeah.
Even
Yes.
in the
Absolutely.
garden, yeah, even in the
Yes.
gardening or the cooking or whatever activity that Gauri was saying, the adult must become a co-creator of that activity. The adult
Yes.
must himself be involved with the activity, and little
Yes.
children, especially below 7, must only imitate it. You see,
Yes.
the adults must be doing the gardening or the painting or whatever, the cooking, and the children will want to come and be a part of it, and you involve them, and everything happens in a space of imitation.
Yes.
And slowly, as the children cross the 7th year or the 8th year, then
Yes.
one can resort to some form of instruction, but
Yes.
only if the children will get involved with any activity, only if adults show interest in the activity.
Yes.
Most
Yes.
often today, children are asked to sit and finish their homeworks. The mainstream schools give pages and pages of homework to finish every day, and parents will start to negotiate and bargain. You finish your
Yeah.
homework, I'll send you
Yeah.
out to play. You
Yeah.
finish
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
homework, I'll
Yeah.
take you out for an ice cream. So there's a lot of negotiation that goes on, and so children get to feel homework belongs to my parents, play and fun belongs to my life. Whereas homework, I'm doing it for the sake of the parents. So the so-called will for work has never been awakened in children. Everything is done by force, by reward or punishment, by grading through name or shame. So this is what makes children do things out of fear, but not by awakening the human will. Like, I want to do this, I will
Yes.
do
Yes.
this.
Yes.
That
Yes.
inner will is never
Yes.
awakened.
Absolutely. And this is so important when they become adults. This is such an important
Absolutely.
thing. Yeah.
And
I get what you're saying.
then again, getting this done by force will result in a lot of challenging behavior.
Yeah. Actually, and also the love for learning is gone.
Gone. Abstraction sets in, boredom sets in.
Correct.
Just we have to do it. Some children even succumb to that. Oh, we have to do this.
Correct.
Only
Correct.
then life will be good. Only then we'll find happiness in the future. So children also succumb to that kind of thinking.
Correct. 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 Absolutely. Absolutely. When each challenge. So when I was when I was a parent then, every time my child would go to the next grade, the class teacher would have a meeting with the parents and would tell, okay, this is 8 years old. These are the developmental milestones, and this is what will happen. Typically, you can expect. So as a parent, don't worry. This is how you must behave. We were educated. So
Right.
as a parent, I came to know that this is okay. This may happen now, may happen 1 year later. And after a point, I think I became not a hyper parent, but a normal parent. Okay, it's okay. So understanding these developmental milestones and challenges is such an important part of for the parent
Absolutely.
to understand challenging behavior. Otherwise, we label, and we have our notion of what challenging is, and then we mix it up, and that really curbs the child's developmental process. What's your view on this?
Yeah, of course. Each age has with it a certain change in the behavior of children, but all that is related to the consciousness of children.
Yes.
You see, the consciousness of children changes over time. You might have seen me telling in my Art of Parenting lecture the entire map of childhood, starting from
Yes.
0 to 21 years. Yeah, I explained that a little more in detail there. Let's take the example of birth itself. Yeah, it can be quite a tense moment for the parents to see how this child behaves when he's coming out. You
Yes.
saw
Yes.
whether he slides out easily, or whether he's going to
Yes.
be kicking hard and creating a lot of pain,
Yes.
or whether he
The
kind of
signature.
tire,
Yes.
yeah, or whether he's so phlegmatic and tires out and doesn't kick at all anymore. So the signature of the
Yes.
birth signature is already
Yes.
seen in the
Absolutely.
kind of, in the kind of behaviors, especially that will arise out of a certain temperament, or a
Temperament. Yeah.
certain, though it's not manifest so early. I'm just saying that one can
Yes.
start to see as if something is already existing like that.
Yes.
So today, of course, the process of birth has become so complicated with medical interventions and all of that. But for thousands and thousands of years, the only natural thing that human beings have done all along is giving birth. You see, without going to hospitals, without any tubes and machines. And that's how the human population has increased. You see, I'm a very strong believer of natural birth. Yeah, one must of course look at C-sections and all of that in the event of life and death, but not at a very small touch
Yeah.
of something.
Top of a-
You kind of advise a cesarean. One is that it is safe for the mother. Okay, that point is given and the whole world knows it. But the more important point to know is that it is the first expression of a child's ego body. It's the
Yes.
first expression of the human I, that I want to meet the world, I want to enter into the world. And imagine the child is given a particular space in the mother's womb, to kind of move around, and the child kind of fills up that space in his growing physical body. He fills up the space, and then there's no space to move at all. So he really kicks the mother and says, I want my freedom, I want more space. And mama says, no, 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 it's a big bad world out there, don't go, stay here, this is more safer and more comfortable, be here. But the child kicks, and the whole process of delivery is that of fighting between the child wanting to free himself and the mother kind of constricting, and this goes on for a couple of hours, and of course the child wins. There's no and we want the child to win, right? We want the child to
Yes.
win. And finally he kind of zooms out of the spiritual passage, and that is an expression of the child's ego, or the child's spirit self. That's the first expression. Now then comes the first 3 years, the walking, the talking, and the thinking. In the first, second, and third year, all these three processes are achieved. At one level, if we do not achieve these three milestones, or if there are problems in the milestones, then one comes into the realm of curative education. Yeah, and that belongs to the spirit, to the human spirit.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But also, if you look at the three aspects of walking, talking, and thinking, even at an earthly level, then you see, let's say, for example, before the child walks, he crawls. Till then, the child was just lying down in one place. But the moment he starts to crawl like an animal, then the world becomes exciting. Animals really can look around, and he starts to go around, and everything is exciting. Oh, there's a hanging curtain fluttering in the wind, and he wants to go and catch that. He may bring the whole curtain system down, or some flower vase, or some costly figurine, and all that. Everything can become broken or fallen down. And so really a child-friendly space means a child-friendly space. If you want to create, it is a space where you don't have to keep telling children, no, don't do that, don't go there, don't, if you're keeping on saying that, that's a very child-unfriendly space.
Yes.
A
Yes.
child,
Yes.
and that again results in all kinds of challenging behavior for the adults, because of the wrong ecosystem, because of the
Yes.
wrong
Yes.
environment.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it's
Though,
so. Yeah. So
you want to say something?
it's so important now for adults to really know what is their responsibility actually.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
So
actually,
also
in
to
yeah. Yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Mani.
okay. Also to realize that you said, no, that teachers educated you year on year, what happens and all of that in your school. So likewise, if you look at the first year, walking, yeah,
Yes.
walking belongs to the body or to the experience of the human will. Then talking to another human being belongs to the realm of the human soul, the feeling realm. And the third, thinking, belongs to the realm of human thinking or the human spirit. So there is this body, soul, spirit in the first, second, third year. And this pattern kind of
Yeah.
repeats itself in the fourth, fifth, sixth year, in the seventh, eighth, ninth year. So, this repetitive pattern in human development brings that in the every third year, the thinking becomes awakened, the human spirit becomes strongly incarnated. And when the human spirit becomes strongly incarnated, a lot of behavioral changes. That's the step on which the child will suddenly change into another dimension of his personality. So in the third year, you can already see young children. Third year is when their thinking will incarnate very strongly,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
they will start to say no when you want them to do something, and when you
Yes.
don't want them to do something, they say no, I will do it. You see, because this is nothing.
Yeah.
Parents will get agitated. Oh my God, at
Yeah.
this age he
Yeah.
doesn't listen to me.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
parents get petrified, and they start to handle children in a disciplining manner.
Yeah.
But if you just realize that this is a passing space, in the third year you will find children, because there's a new incarnation of one's own identity, one's own individuality.
Absolutely.
And that's an expression of that, you see. So if you understand the map of childhood, the developmental chart, then parenting can become a lot more easier, and parents can stay a lot more
Yes.
calmer.
Yes.
You
Yes.
see?
Yes. Absolutely.
Similarly,
Those-
the
For
sixth
those who
year.
are viewing, we must attend Mani's Art of Parenting workshop, where the map of childhood is really so beautifully showcased. And I am the many of you who are watching us live right now. If you've not attended, we must attend it. It's
Yeah,
really very revealing.
in fact, tomorrow morning I'm giving a 3-hour Art of Parenting session.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Yeah, super.
All
Yeah.
right. So
Yeah.
I would like to say a little more, continue something. So then there is a 6th year, there's a 9th year, there's a 12th year, there's a 15th year, all the multiples of 3. There is always some moment of crisis. Steiner circles, people talk a lot about the 9th year.
Yes.
The 9th year is like a midpoint of childhood. Yeah, the first 18 years of schooling, the 9th year is like a midpoint. And it is within 18 years, it's a transition from babyhood into, adolescenthood or whatever. So, the 9th year, the whole process of growing up, Deepa, the whole process of growing up into an adult is a process of adulteration. So, in a way, the child who was born from the spiritual world stays in that realm of universal consciousness for a long time. That's why children are able to be children, that innocence, that a child can easily walk up to a mother or a father in the midst of a large meeting or a crowd and can happily sit on the mother's lap as if that body and his body are one.
Yeah.
You see, there's no difference between me and you.
Yeah.
That is the realm of universal consciousness.
Yes.
You see,
Absolutely.
but slowly as children start to grow, they start to inwardly experience the world as different and I am different. That oneness starts to now become a separation. It starts to become a duality and then starts to get established strongly. The universal consciousness is almost there up to the 7th year. And that's the kind of phase when one really wants to say stories like Once Upon a Time and then they lived happily ever after. You start with Once Upon a Time and you end with They lived happily ever after. So that's why fairy tales lend themselves very beautifully to this age group, because they work on that universal consciousness of where the whole world is good. Yeah, whatever happens at the end, the good will win over the evil. That's what fairy tales are made up of, you see. when the children come to the 8th year, slowly something changes. After the change of teeth of the 7th year, slowly something changes and the children start to feel that the world is different. Oh, that's mother and this is me. They start to feel a little bit of polarity. The whole outside world still doesn't come into their consciousness, but mother, father are different comes into. So this polarity is very well addressed in the 2nd grade through stories of fables like the ugly duckling or the beautiful swan or the foolish crow and the wise owl. Stories where there are polarities, where the fox will invite the crane, to come and drink the porridge in the flat plate, and he teases the stork, and then the stork will call the fox to his house and give
Yeah.
porridge in a large. These kind of stories. They're very good to address this growing polarity in the
Polarity.
2nd
Yeah.
grade. Then when the child becomes in the 9th grade, this polarity becomes established. The child now knows that there's me here, there's mom and dad here, but there's also a big outside world, and I have to meet this world. That comes into his consciousness. The world always existed. The world
Yeah.
always existed, but it never came into the consciousness
Yeah,
of
his
the child.
conscious.
Yeah, but in the 3rd grade, in the 9th year, this starts to become a reality. Children start to experience their individuality or their identity very strongly from inside. All these are inner changes, you see, and then they start to notice a world and they have to meet the world, and it kind of creates a little bit of the transition is quite frightening. Many children struggle through it. Many children also sail through it. It's not that all the children have to go through a crisis period, but many children struggle through it. They have fear, they have anxiety, they have withdrawn behaviors, they get into isolation. Children also kind of become outward also. They start to argue and question a lot, or sometimes children ask some very profound questions, especially in the 9th year. They will ask questions like, was I born to you? Mama, was I really born to you? And parents can have a good laugh about it. If children have seen some death or heard about it in the neighboring house or in a relative's house or something, they will come back and ask you the next night, Mama, will you also die and leave me?
Yeah. Yeah.
You see? So all these are aspects of the Rubicon. Till about before that, the 8th year or the 7th year or even earlier than that, the dead body might be in their own house, but the children won't recognize so much. They will just think that their mama is sleeping or tata is sleeping or whatever. But if it is after the 8th year, 9th year, slowly, then children are awakened to this strong sense of individuality, and questions about meeting life start to become very obvious. This is very popularly known in Waldorf circles as the Rubicon crisis. You can again see one more nodal change in the 12th year. The 12th year is called the pre-puberty crisis. And here children have a very strong sense of individuality, and they don't even care about the other world. What other people think, what other people feel, I don't care. I want to have adventure, I want to test boundaries, I want to defy the teacher's authority. It's a very strong sense of individuality. So usually in the 6th grade you can see a lot of bullying, fighting in the playground, some kind of an adventurous things, like doing things which daredevil kind of things, including sometimes stealing. If let's say there's a mall and there are cameras in the mall, and these 2-3 children of that 6th grade want to go and steal something and defy that camera. Not that they want to steal that, they have enough of it in their life. Their parents buy them the best. But just to feel that thrill, to feel
Kick.
that high, the kick, yeah. So that's what children do it. And of course the last stage is of course puberty, and needless to say, all hell breaks loose. Yeah, needless to say that. So
Yeah.
Steiner in fact says that the age period from 14 to 21 is a huge crisis period in human development.
Yeah.
He says in the entire human journey, The 14 to 21 is almost an illness,
Yeah.
is almost
Yeah.
a crisis period, because if children can come out of 21 in a sane and in a healthy way, then it's a very good uh, aspect. But if children get addicted to drugs and all kinds of bad habits and all kinds of erratic sexual tendencies, pornographies and all of that, it's a little bit difficult to cross that path, especially if they're addicted.
Yeah.
Those will lead to another kind of challenging behavior for parents altogether.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but
Absolutely.
believe me, the healing for all this lies in 0 to 7. You know,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
0 to 7 is the foundation for everything. See, let's assume today. Okay, I'm just going to roughly tell you that many children in the age of 16, 17, 18 try drugs. Okay, it's frightening, but that's the reality. Especially when they are in college and all of that, or at least they smoke and drink. Let's say, yeah, for instance. Now, many children, when they cross 21 and when their ego body sets in, 90% of the children are the children who can leave all these things behind. Oh, it was all
Yes.
college life, we had fun. They can leave it behind and they can move on to jobs and work and, you know, and move on in life. But the remaining 10%, those one or two children in a class who were into drug addiction along with the other friends, are not able to move on. They
Yeah.
get stuck in
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
you know. And there I find in the biographies of many drug addicts that I had an opportunity to work with, I find that the cause always lies in 0 to 7
Yes.
in the growing years. You see,
Yes. Makes
so
sense.
if we have done our 0 to 7 well, and even if children go through teenage tendencies at 21, when the ego body sets in, they're able to move ahead
Come
in
out of it.
life,
Yeah. Yeah.
come out
Yeah.
of.
Yeah.
And
This is
even
amazing.
currently, yeah, even currently I know some drug addicts who are 35, 38 and are just unable to kind of release
Shift
themselves
down.
from their
Yeah.
addiction and
Yeah.
get on to a mode of rhythmical
Yeah.
life with
Yeah.
work and relationships. Nothing, they've just kind of lost their lives.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
You see.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for such a detailed explanation. I think I'm going to club a few questions. We're almost at the end of an hour.
Oh,
And
oh, I see.
I'm going to club a few questions and move to the role of the parents, because I think this is very important. Because the parents and the primary caregivers have to be equipped and prepared to deal with these children. And Gauri, I'm asking this specifically to you because Mani directly said that the healing comes if we handle the 0 to 7 well, and that's your pet group, that you handle. I'm also going to ask one more question along with this, where our one of our viewers have asked that what happens if the parents have unhealed aspects in them? So that does come into parenting. So how do parents play that role? They have certain things, and they want to give a nurturing environment. What must they do?
Okay, I'll answer both, Deepa. So, after listening to so much about the tools and methodologies and how to go about it to bring healing, one important aspect we need to remember as adults is after listening to all these tools, parents or teachers for that matter don't misunderstand, come to a conclusion that if I start using these tools, they will work as magical pills. That is not the case. They are not magical pills. Let it be painting, let it be drawing, let it be play, anything for that matter. They are not magical pills to fix. It's not a straight solution to fix a problem. It is not that way. To address the bigger picture, the larger picture of the child, it is very important for us to understand the child deeper. And in the complex tapestry of discipline, right? Whatever tools we discussed are the light filled threads. Please remember, they are all the light filled threads. The real underpinning threads are the consistent and conscious approaches of adults who care for children.
Yeah, totally.
That is the key aspect. Just because I implement all these tools into my child's life, don't expect that the child will get healed. It is an ongoing process. And parents may come with a question like, how do I do this? If it is constant, consistent, conscious approaches, we tend to lose our balance. That I agree. We are all not great saintly people. We tend to lose our balance. So, to put it in a very easy way to understand, I'll pick an experience from my own biography. When I started my journey as a teacher, in my second year of kindergarten, I had a child who was quite challenging in his behavior, hitting, scratching, rebellious. I had a lot of difficulty. I had almost 20 to 22 children in a group, and this one child was very disruptive in class. And me as a beginner used to really wonder, like, oh, because of this one child, my class goes for a toss. Otherwise,
Mm.
my class is a heaven. Now, what should I do with this? I kept attempting different things, but it continued. Then one fine day, I went to Mani sir, who is very much here, and told him that, sir, this child is a big problem to me in the class now. I don't know how to deal with this. Except for this child, my class will be such a beautiful class. I don't know what to do about it. And I also wanted to justify, I justified my side as a teacher that I'm attempting so much, but still nothing is working. Then Sir gave a listening ear in his own style, and then patiently he replied something very simple but very profound for me. And it keeps echoing to me even today. I will share
Mm.
that secret with you all. He said, a child is in front of you, a child is a child. If you see a challenge in the child, in the behavior, in the situation, let it be anything, nothing to be done with the child, with the situation. It is your inability, your lack of ability, or your incapability in handling that situation. So, can you start thinking, Gauri, how you're going to equip yourself to handle such a situation?
No.
So, nothing to be done in the outward level. A child will come. This child will move on to the next grade. Again, another child will come. It is not enough with children, even with life. Life continues to throw challenging situations to us. So, what is happening outwardly? Nothing to be done with that. So, the clear indication is you are lacking somewhere to handle this particular situation. So, how am I going to equip myself to handle it in a better way? With all the balance, when we see an imbalance out in the outside, how am I going to handle it in a more balanced way? So this particular sentence left me in deep silence actually. It was a revelation for me. Then that is how I started exploring myself as a teacher, as a person, as a mother,
Yes. Yes.
and my inner search started.
Yes. Yes.
So
Yep.
all the solutions lies within you deeper.
Totally agree.
Rather than hitting, it is otherwise if you're going to work from the outside, no, it is like hitting a rock. I'll give it to you in writing.
Totally agree.
So when you
Totally.
start inner search, you won't believe, Deepa. You find solutions somehow, somewhere. You crack the situation. You don't know how. You will learn to seep deeper into the situation, into the soul of the child, into the soul of the adult, because we do come across with challenging parents also, to
Correct.
mention. It's not
Correct.
enough. Please don't understand like challenging behaviors are only inherited or it's a treasure of children. We all come with challenging behaviors. That's the truth. So then this became a mantra for me. Then when I started traveling inwardly, then whenever I came across a challenging situation, let it be with a child or an adult, this mantra will immediately echo. There will be a bell. Oh, somewhere I'm struggling now. It
Yeah.
is my incapability. And especially when it comes with children, how justifying it is, Deepa, to throw our incapability on this
On
child
them.
who has
Correct.
walked the planet for a couple of years when compared to us. Now I'm 45. I have walked this planet for 45 years. I have my own share of experiences.
Yeah.
If my son is throwing a challenge, how justifying it is for me to conclude that this child is a problem. So
Yes.
the moment we start exercising ourselves from a space of, oh, this child is a problem, you can never resolve. You can
Yes.
never. You are fighting
Completely.
a lost battle.
Completely agree.
That's for sure. So we should
Absolutely agree.
stop looking at the child or the situation as a problem. First tool is to accept. Second is love. Third is trust. And the fourth one, which is most underused and forgotten tool, is humor. Humor works beautifully and powerfully. I am a person who uses a lot of humor in the class. Lots. For simple situations, immediately we do not get into a thought like, oh, this child is throwing a challenging behavior now. What should I do as a teacher? Not needed. I'll give a very simple example. Few years ago, there was a boy in the class who used to come from a backdrop where there were lack of rhythms. The child would come with all the morning rush, scolding, hitting from the parents, and he would come. And during the circle time, one day he refused to join the circle. He said, I don't want to sing and move and dance and do all these things. He quietly went and sat inside the dollhouse. And all the children were watching this. You know what I did? I allowed the child to sit. I just said a simple verse. You know, children, I tell a short story. Once there lived a little mouse living safely in a house. When I shut my eyes, I let him be. When I opened my eyes, he was next to me. I said this, and all the children laughed. And I do a little bit of drama of pulling my sari. Oh, where is that mouse? Where is that mouse? Oh, he was next to me. And then I repeated the same verse, pointing at the boy. Here is the little boy, as quiet as a mouse, living safely in the dollhouse. When I shut my eyes, I let him be. When I open my eyes, oops, he's next to me. And he was. That was the truth. When I did this with all the excitement, the child slowly crept inside the circle.
Yeah.
And he was next to me and he was laughing. So these are all simple ways. Let us not get into a very serious mode of as if handling something very intense. We can try all these tools and they will work very beautifully, very powerfully.
Yeah,
So this
yeah, I totally agree.
yeah, because we have to be ripe enough, matured enough to handle a situation which is out of balance. For that, a
Yeah,
kind of readiness is
yeah,
needed from our
yeah,
side also.
yeah.
And it is
Actually,
not that we are going to achieve that. It is a lifelong striving. We will
yes,
strive again and again. That doesn't mean
yes,
that we are going to succeed every time. We fail,
yes,
but again we have to get
yes,
up and try. That
yes,
is how the process becomes enjoyable for me.
yes, yes, absolutely. Actually, in my life, my I feel my children are my teachers. If today I'm doing deep self work with so many adult clients, it's because every time I met a problem with them, I looked inward. And every time I looked inward, I could see so many unhealed parts of me. And one by one, like an onion, I peeled. And then I could see many more dark aspects, and then many more, and then many more. So, for the one who is asking this, Renuka, the only way is to, if you know it's unhealed, then heal it. And you will see the whole process is so beautiful for you, for the house, for the children, for everyone. It's a celebration every single day, and
True,
I think
very true.
it's such a beautiful environment to be. There's a lot of joy there. So I'm just going to move to the next question. What steps, and there are two questions from the same person. What steps should a parent take if the child is distancing themselves from one parent?
So, would you like to answer, sir?
Um, yeah, I don't know if this is a question that comes from somebody's personal experience, but uh, in general, uh, children are usually very much in favor of both the parents, even in cases where two parents are undergoing, let's say, a very severe battle tending towards divorce and all of that. Children are happily relating to both the parents. So this is a very a personal situation I'm understanding. So there might be many factors why parents. There could be this one parent who does not probably spend too much time with the children, or probably is very abusive, or there might be something very more personal. I'm not able to put a general principle to why a child would like one parent. Uh,
And
that
it can be, sir, so I would like to add, it can be a result of the personal experience the child has gathered. I don't know
had
how old is the child. In his biography, maybe if the child is 5 to 6 years old, in his 5 to 6 years of living, the kind of experiences the child has gathered may lead to this kind of a situation, like the child is little maybe scared of a parent, or little,
right.
what to say, feeling insecure to get connected to the parent. But all these things are workable. That is the trust I wanted to leave here in this show. Parents, please understand, like all these things are workable through our consistent and conscious approaches. That is for sure.
The
Like Manisa mentioned, if the 0 to 7 is in place, everything will be in place. Now, I, as a mother, my children were never in a world of school. A kind of whatever damage I did out of my ignorance, it is done. Okay, I met Walter Steiner education when my elder son was 11 years. But later, after slowly I started digesting this whole thing, it helped me a lot as a mother to bring back whatever best I can to in my home front also. So all that started with how well we are conscious as a parent.
Yeah.
Without we
Absolutely.
working, nothing to be worked on the child. We need not work on the child. It comes to working on us. There we all get back. We take a back step. When it comes to working with others or with the child, we are all ready.
Yeah. Ready.
Because
Correct.
working on ourselves becomes challenging for us. But that is the key. That is the reality.
Yes.
Deepa,
Thank you.
sorry. I know we are running out of time, but I want to end with this one important point. In Steiner education, there is a certain principle, yeah, that in the map of childhood, the physical body is born at birth, and then at the 7th year, the etheric body or the pranamaya kosha is born with the change of teeth, and then the astral body or the manomaya kosha at 14, and so on. As children start to free themselves in one body and then start to move, completing that particular body, there is a principle which says that one higher member of the adult must embrace one lower member of the child. So, for example, for a child between 0 to 7, yeah, who's developing in their physical body, completing their physical body, the mother or the father, or I'm just going to say the mother, must be well nourished in her etheric body. For a child who is going to complete or growing in his physical body, the mother must be highly energetic, well-being, good stamina to last throughout the day, running behind this child and feeding him and doing all kinds of physical work. She has to have a good etheric body. And when the child goes in the age group of 7 to 14, the mother or the teacher has to have a good astral body or a good manomaya kosha, because from 7 to 14 the child needs to be nurtured in his feeling realm. So the adults must have a very healthy feeling body or an astral body, and then the adults can create beauty and can create art and can create, that is so important for the growing astral bodies of the children. But if the adults themselves are all full of frustration and pain and depression and all of that, then that can really, the childhood development path can be largely damaged. And again, as I said, anything that happens in childhood, the effects are seen only 20 years later.
Yes.
So in your jobs, in your marriages, in your health, the effects are seen in all these areas much later in life. And again, in the high school period, that is from 14 to 21, when the child is developing and completing his astral body and moving towards the birth of the ego womb is held by the parents. Yeah, so the higher member, the adult who is involved with the lives of high school children must be very ego-centered, must be balanced, must be truthful in meeting the child. So all these things explains that principle that one higher member of the adult must be nourished to look after the lower member of the child. Yeah.
Yeah. There is one more question, maybe it can be the last question. If the child doesn't imitate, then what to do to make him imitate the things? How to increase the imitation skills? Like, Gauri, would you like to take it?
Yeah.
So do you want to go, sir?
Yeah. Okay. There
Yeah,
is.
anybody.
In my understanding, the lack of imitation arises in today's scenario, especially because of sensory overload. I have seen in many children. Children, they don't imitate when there is a sensory overload through technology, through a lot of lectures from moral stories and lectures from parents, and child being involved in all this confusion and hangama, the child loses the capacity, ability to imitate because the child is preoccupied. And
Yeah.
I had a classic example, a boy who was not imitating. Later, when we worked with the parents, I came to know like the child uses phone, used to watch a lot of TV, and the parent kept, in all the goodwill, the parent kept guiding the child, overloading the child with a lot of logics and scientific explanations. The child was around 5 to 6 years. So when I ask the parents to wean the child from all these things, and it is a time-taking process. So parents have to understand, like, don't expect immediate results. It may take 3 months, 6 months, a year. We don't know. But how effectively we are doing it, then later the child started imitating actually. Otherwise, we can understand. See, we are in this live show now. We are, once the show ends, we are out, with a lot of information. And that will be in our head for some time, right? If that is the case for the adults, you can imagine a child sitting and watching a cartoon for hours. So the child was looking for the same, and he was preoccupied in these things even in the classroom. So the child will not imitate. He will just look at the roof, look at the ceiling, and everything sounded boring for him, boredom. Because the cartoon, the pace with which the cartoon images move, the child expects the same, even in reality. But that is not going, I can't jump like a Tom and Jerry, right, in the class. So that is not the healing for the child. Yes, sir.
No, no. Given that food and sleep rhythms are in place, and given that zero technology is practiced for children below 7 years, if all this is given, and if the child still doesn't imitate, it's okay. One doesn't have to make imitation happen. Imitation is an inner need for the child to reflect, to mirror the adults. It's an inner need. So we don't have to see that my child is imitating me. See, I'm doing this now, you do, you also follow me. It's not about it, because if you do that, it is teaching. It is instructing only. It is not
Yes.
imitation. Imitation has to happen naturally.
On its
And
own.
if a child,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
and children don't have to imitate outwardly. They can imitate inwardly also. Children can simply absorb what you're doing, and do it somewhere else, and you'll be surprised, where did he learn from? He never did this. It's not like I doing something, he has to imitate me, learn it, and then he has to perform elsewhere. So this tendency or this mode of thinking in us adults has to go. Yeah, imitation is a natural, organic activity. It will happen inwardly also. See, I know that even a special child with autism was there in our classroom. For 3 to 6 months, he never came into the circle. He was always sitting under the table or somewhere like that. And first few days he was moving, yelling, screaming, and all of that. But slowly he settled down and found a safe place under the desk. He would go and sit there, and the rest of the classroom would be doing the circle. And the teacher would, as a mentor, she would come and ask me, what should I do with this child? I'm trying to hold his hand and bring him, but he resists or he screams, and I have to let him. And I don't want to waste my time for the other children, so I do that. Now, it went on, and we tried all kinds of things. The ideas I gave, she tried. Nothing really worked. And then in October came the parents' meeting, when we had to present a report of the child. And the teacher came and told me, what should I write? I don't know, always sitting under the bench. That's the only thing I can write. If I have to be truthful to the whole, the child has learned really nothing, Mani, so what should I tell the parent? I said, let's see, let them come, we'll discuss, we'll ask them for some ideas, we'll tell them what's happening in the classroom, and we'll take their suggestions also. I told them that. And then the mother and the father came that afternoon, and the mother came so happily. She said, hi teacher, and she hugged the teacher and all that, and she sat. We were like surprised. Oh, this is a happy mother. We thought they'll come with a lot of complaint. What are you doing with my child? I thought they'll do all that. The mother came and she gave a hug to the teacher, and she sat there very happily. And even before we could begin we didn't know what to say actually, except confess. And the mother said, teacher, is this the song that you teach in the classroom? Down in my garden, or something like that, she said. I said, yes, this is our song. You know what? Every night we are filled with songs in our after we switch off the lights. You know, the child is singing at home all the songs of the morning circle that we are not aware of. So, can you see that? So, the imitation is very inward. The child will start to learn through peripheral vision, peripheral hearing, through other senses. You know, not directly like how we expect him to participate and then perform when we ask. This mode has to go. Yeah, imitation will happen naturally. So the answer to that person who's asked the question is that imitation is a natural process. You don't have to make it happen. You just have to simply become a role model for imitation. That's all. You have to work on yourself and become a role model for imitation. Whether the child imitates or not doesn't matter. The child will learn in any which form. Some children will perform. Some children will perform the imitation. Some children may not perform the imitation, but still the learning inwardly the child has taken in the gestures, the movement, the sounds, all the sensory impressions are taken inwardly.
Yeah. In psychology, there is a term. It's I think it's called latent learning or something like that.
Okay.
It's there. Yeah.
I see.
Beautiful. That was a lovely note to really end this beautiful discussion. Thank you so much to Gauri and Mani. Rich is how I feel. Enriched is how I feel. Thank you and
thank you,
yeah,
Deepa. Actually, it's not like we are all experts in these fields. We also raise our children. Me and Gauri have two teenage children each, and we all have our own share of problems. So it's not like we are sitting there and giving yarn to the others. We're just sharing a few little knowledge that we picked along the way. When it comes to subjective experiences, we have also kind of scolded our children or even given them one slap or whack here and there. So it's not at all that we are sitting on a pedestal and saying something.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
It's okay. So people can all feel that, first of all, it's important to realize that everybody goes through these experiences. Parenting has to be a celebration. You need to just celebrate your parents.
Yes.
Simply laugh at children, whatever mischief and naughtiness and bad behavior or whatever. Just laugh it all out and enjoy the innocence with which it is done. Do not stamp it on the child. Do not say you don't do this and you are like so bad, you like that. So don't stamp it on the child. Enjoy the beauty of children's behavior. And always look for opportunities where you can acknowledge the child's good behavior rather than blame for the bad behavior.
Yes.
At the end of the day, parenting should be a joyful and celebration. This is my, if you want like a message to the parents, just enjoy parenting.
Absolutely.
Do not get too worried. When you find difficult behavior, just kind of fold your arms, give a nice smile, and stand there like a smiling Buddha in the face of a tsunami. That's the magic.
So you forgot one sentence which you used to mention in your talks. Just stand there and feel happy and celebrate and say, "Oh, my son is growing. Oh, my daughter is growing." So celebrate. Because the consciousness is tend to change, right?
Yeah, and if the children do not do all these things at those certain ages, then I would consider it an abnormal development. If only they did all these things, if only they crossed through the Rubicon, if only when they said no at the 3rd year, only when they did their 12th year they crossed, and their puberty, only then I will call that as normal development. So you just have to accept that this is normal human development. You don't have to do too many things about it. You don't have to raise this very perfect child who will stand when you say stand and sit when you say sit. Many parents have idealistic notions of how their children should be, and they define the growth of children on their own head. Am I a good mother? If children do something wrong, am I a good mother? This is the biggest problem in today's parenting. You question your own identity, and then you lack self-esteem and you lose confidence, and you don't want to face the outside world. So it's all the problem of the parents, of the adults. It's okay. It's okay to be a bad parent too. What is there? It's okay to learn. It's okay to ask other people for advice. Once upon a time we lived in these large joint families, and every child, we all of us grew up like sheep and goats. In a crowd, we just grew up like that. Parents didn't even know. My father would come and tell some relative or a guest who came, my son is studying in the 4th grade. I said, Papa, I'm in the 6th grade. They really never
Yeah.
gave a great deal towards parenting. It was just a matter of fact. It just happened. Today we have so many parents doing parenting courses, and all the ideas of ticking boxes. Have you kissed your child 3 times a day? Have you did this and that? All this tick box parenting, and not listening to the inner voice, not listening to the inner feeling of the mother or the father, because that is an aspect of the sense of life. Feeling that inner safety, feeling that inner sense of instinct of being a mother or a father, no, is actually an aspect of the sense of life. Yeah. Thanks.
Well said,
Thanks,
sir. Well
Deepa.
said.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Deepa.
Thank you
Thank you,
so much.
everybody.
Yeah. Thanks for all the people who are here today. You can connect to us also later,
Yes.
and if you have any personal questions,
Yes.
some of you might have personal questions which
Yeah.
we can deal with offline. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Deepa. Month after month, you bring us on this platform, and we also learn a lot. We also learn a lot when we, kind of think a little bit and prepare a little
Yes.
bit about some of these
Yes.
topics. There's a lot of
Absolutely.
learning. You are
Absolutely.
you
We'll come
are
back
you are
again
put,
in April.
yeah, you're putting us to becoming good readers, open our libraries, refer books, do things like that.
Reflect.
which we are not doing in the Corona period, with lots of work.
Correct.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank
Bye.
you. Thank you.
Bye.